plaintiff, Elizabeth George, says the defendant is her sister. And when Elizabeth was struggling with an addiction to pain pills and meth, the defendant was there for her. Elizabeth is suing because she claims the defendant's minor son took her car without permission and wrecked it. Defendant Serena George says her relationship with Elizabeth has always been rocky. And once on Thanksgiving, they got into a physical fight and Elizabeth was arrested. Serena admits that her son crashed Elizabeth's car, but she insists Elizabeth gave him the keys.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
Well, growing up, we didn't spend much time together. We have different biological fathers. And
You lived in a separate household?
no, sir. At 12 years old, I was sent to foster care and group homes. My mom kept the rest of them, and it was just me that was gone.
Why was that the case? Okay, go ahead.
I'm not sure. I wasn't the best teenager sometimes. I was very angry a lot. So we grew up a lot of times separately. When I moved to Council Bluffs when I was about 18, I lived in apartments on my own. My mom isn't the kindest person sometimes, especially to her children, especially when there's choices that she doesn't like that we make. She was very hard on Sarah when Sarah had gotten pregnant at a very young age.
Give me an example of her being hard.
One time I came upstairs and her was in Sarah's face, ready to hit her at 12 or 13 years old while she was pregnant. And my mom was sitting at the table just doing nothing. And it was me standing up in front of him and told him that I would basically very much hurt him if he touched my sister. And she also tried to force her to abort the baby. And so Sarah came to live with us for a while, and she did really well. She got back into school. She was doing really well. She eventually was able to get her own place.
Good.
And
So
then
your approach worked.
she honestly did most of it herself.
Okay, and then what happened? You
Time
and her
went
were
on.
still close at that point, obviously.
No. I developed a very, very, very bad addiction to pain pills to start with. And Sarah would go out of her way to help me at that time. And during this time, I had called in a very fraudulent prescription. And my sister went to go pick it up for me. And the police were there waiting for her. They called me, the police did, and they said, you know, we have your sister here picking up prescription in your name. And when they called me, I immediately knew it was not her. She had absolutely nothing to do with it. Let her go. I pled guilty to it. I wasn't going to let her take responsibility. In time, my addiction got worse, and I developed an addiction.
What type? Opioid or what type?
Vicodin. And then meth started. When the meth got
And
bad.
I understand that those are two different highs. That's what I don't understand. Y'all just want to get high off anything.
Yeah, it was.
Any kind of high.
It was equal opportunity. Whatever didn't make me feel anything, that's what I went with.
All right.
And then during that time, I did some horrible things to my family and had gotten arrested. Sarah did take care of my kids while I was in jail.
Okay.
And when
How long were you in jail?
A total of 4 months.
Okay.
I got to go on a road trip to 3 different jails, 2 different counties, 2 different states.
And when you came out, you were clean?
Yes.
And you stayed clean?
Back and forth. I've done best the last year.
Well, let me ask this. When you were in jail or after being released, had you been ordered at any point to go to rehab?
Oh, yeah, I walked out.
Okay. Were you ordered by the judge?
Mm-hmm.
And when you got out, you walked out?
Yep. I didn't want to be sober.
All right.
Yet.
And was it reported back to the judge?
Oh, yeah, then I went back to jail and then work release and...
All right. So even though you were being arrested, you did the same thing over and you went back?
Yep.
All right. And what happened then?
When I got out of jail, my older kids had gone to live with their dad, and Sarah had just had Catalina still. She was 5 at the time. Her dad gave her back to me while I was in a halfway house. And I took Catalina and we left Omaha and moved to Lincoln to a homeless shelter. to rebuild things. And I spent 4 years in Lincoln working very hard on a different life. I still made horrible choices. I still made mistakes, but...
Getting high?
Yeah, not on meth anymore. Then it went back to the opiates and things. I came back to Omaha 17 months ago, and before that I went back to living in a homeless shelter. I worked sometimes 60-hour weeks. My kids would go with me to work every day. We'd have to walk from work back to the shelter past the guys passed out or the ones trying to hit on us. It was rough, but we got through it. And it took me a long time, but I rebuilt a lot of things.
All right, and tell me what has occurred recently in you all's relationship?
Well, 17 months ago when I first came back, I had made some great choices that night. I had taken a lot of pills, and my nephew had used my car.
What type of pills?
Xanax. And I had done quite a bit of drinking that night too. So my nephew had used my car that night.
Her son?
Yes. I don't honestly remember much of anything until he came back and had told me that he had crashed my car. And I could see in his eyes, like, he felt horrible. There was remorse there. And he apologized and told me he was sorry. And my words were, I forgive you. And he asked me how I could do that, because he doesn't hear that very often. And I told him, well, trust me, if you knew the things that I've done that people don't know, and Jesus can forgive me, I can forgive you for crashing my car. And he explained that he would replace my car and he would make it right. Since then, and honestly, he's been my favorite part of living in Omaha again. I love the time I spend with him. I love getting to know him. He's so creative and he has so much potential.
So you give me some background on your relationship with her and how you all got to this.
Rocky, as we were growing up, being treated different by your mom. She pushed me because she said she knew I'd be the strongest one out of all of her kids. I got treated differently by not only my siblings, but as my mom. A lot of drug abuse in my family. Alcohol, pills, meth, kind of ran in the family.
Did you have a problem?
No. But that week, all that happened between me, her, and my son, we had a problem that week. Mm-hmm. Thanksgiving, that was a whole nother deal at my house. Cops came, altercation between me and her. This
isn't the car incident?
No.
Okay, this is something different.
Yeah, this is like leading
Before
up.
the car incident?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what.
She wanted to take her daughter out into the cold. Her oldest was there. Oldest told her no. We told her no. They got into it. We all kind of got into it. The cops are called. Me and her were the only ones going at it on the floor when the cops got there, so we were handcuffed. And then she was arrested. I don't know what her charges were for that scenario.
Tell me about the car.
The car, she gave the keys to my son. Okay, but that's besides the point.
No, it's not. It's very much the point. Go ahead.
In my eyes, she gave him the keys. If he took them, I would have hoped she would have reported it. She handed over the keys, and he took the car, decided he wanted to drive the wrong way on the road, and wrecked the car.
Okay. And she's suing you for it. Is he a minor?
At the time, he was 18, 4 months shy of being 19.
And in Nebraska, at what point are you considered an adult?
19.
And at that time, he was a minor being 18. Is that true? You're considered a minor until 19? Let's see it, please, Doyle. Okay. Is that true, ma'am? You can tell me. Okay, so he was a minor.
I also have a statement from my daughter that I didn't give him the keys, but I was actually very intoxicated.
All right, so that's why you're suing her, because her son was a minor, and some states conclude automatic responsibility for a parent for the actions of their child. And my legal approach to that is negligent supervision of the child, because the folks who write these laws obviously haven't had troubled children, because they would know better than to charge a parent for the child's action, particularly if the parent has done all he or she could do. Your child has an undiagnosed mental illness, so he's violent, he or she, he steals, he does other destructive things, uses drugs. Well, there's a reason for that. So the question becomes, did you take him to counseling? Now, and that is the responsible thing to do. If you didn't, then you failed to supervise him properly because you saw he had a problem. But if you don't see the problem, you don't know if they're slick like I was slick. Nobody knew what I was doing.
Right.
And my mother didn't know but the few times I got caught. And believe me, you can multiply that by 500.
Right.
So there's a lot of circumstances that lead to, in my opinion, an unfair decision to charge a parent for the crime of a minor child. And it's typically whether the parent was neglectful. Yes, ma'am.
That night, we were all under the influence. And the police report actually says that he was...
We as in who?
Me, my nephew, my sister.
Her son?
Yes.
You got him high and gave him...
No, I did not.
How did he get it, man? How did you know he was high? You said we were all under the influence, meaning we were all high. How do you know he was high if you didn't give it to him?
She was giving us Xanax.
You gave him Xanax?
Apparently I gave everybody Xanax.
You sound like you high off something too. Are you high off some Xanax?
No, when
Do
I have
you use Xanax?
I haven't prescribed Xanax, yes. But when I have siblings that steal my Xanax, that's a different
We're not talking
story.
about your siblings. We're talking about your children now. Your
Yes.
son.
My son.
And you knew he was high when he came over?
No, we were all, like that night, we were all...
Oh,
I
so
don't
you
rem-
all were all high. That includes him. Have
Yeah.
a good day. Your claim is dismissed. You can't have a young man over there high in your company as an adult, as the auntie. He's a minor. You got a minor sitting up there in your house high,
No.
and your keys available to him. Have a good day. Your claim is dismissed, ma'am.
My daughter almost died 2 weeks ago because I couldn't get her to the hospital because I had no car. And I had to watch her do it.